Just
Here she
teasing.
is, Donna.
Hi, I'm Donna Arp, and many of you may have heard of me. I lived in Colleyville for 30 years, and I'm going to go back to that in a little bit. But when I moved to Colleyville, there were 5,000 people. Now there's 25,000. And why aren't there more? We have lots of realtors because they can't grow anymore because they're landlocked. And I heard somebody talk about landlocked. Yeah, Colleyville is definitely landlocked. Is it going to bother you if I stand up? I hate to stand up and act like I know what I'm doing. Okay, all right. I brought my notes. I'm not highly technical, so I'm not going to throw something up there, and I'm just going to talk to you about 2 or 3 things. When you asked me to come over, I think you just said talk about whatever I wanted to and introduce my books. So actually I'm going to talk about 3 things today. I'm going to talk about 3 different parts of business. I'll give you a little bit of my business background. I started out, I'm a psychologist by education. I grew up in Wichita Falls, Texas. Actually, I grew up in Henrietta. How many of you know where Henrietta, Texas is? I forget I'm in Fort Worth. When I go all over the country speaking, and everybody's like, Henrietta, where's that? And they think it's where Troy Aikman grew up, but that's Troy Aikman grew up in Henrietta, Oklahoma. And so mine's Henrietta, Texas, and if you go ever to Colorado, you will drive right through Henrietta, right around it. Anyway, I grew up there and went to school there and have my undergraduates in English, my master's in psychology, and then I went to Harvard Business School. And I did that and then got into business with Procter & Gamble and learned how to sell. Procter & Gamble is one of the best companies. I've got to say this. I'm going to pitch them. They're one of the best companies for sales. And what they taught me was that anyone can learn how to sell. You know, there's an old misnomer that you got to have a good personality to sell. That's not true. Now, if you have a good personality, that's great. But there are many steps to selling. And so I worked for them. I became the first female sales manager. God, that was a long time. Back in 1980 in the state of Texas for P&G. And then I became a trainer. And I went all over the country training people to sell. I hear my phone. Just let it go. I went all over the United States doing sales training. So, but today I'm not going to talk about sales training because you guys sell every day, right? And I'm going to talk about 3 business things that are emotional things. And one of them is power. Now, why am I going to talk about power? Because that power has a really, how many of you think of power as being positive? Tell the truth. Really? Okay. And I've got one going like this, because it can be negative too, right? So it kind of depends on where you're coming from your paradigm as to whether power is good or bad. But believe me, if I had a choice, I'll take it every time. But there's 3 kinds of power, and I want you to, there's one of them that I want you to stick with. So the first type of power is power by position. And power by position is that you're born into power. I'm sorry, that's ringing. You want to turn it off? It's power by position. Queen Elizabeth was born into power. You know, people of that ilk. Now Meghan Markle, she'll have some power because she's in a power by position. There's power by birth. And again, you know, very famous people like, I just met Jeff Bridges, which is Lloyd Bridges' son. Well, he obviously has some power. His dad was Lloyd Bridges, right? So he was kind of born into, I always call it the Lucky Sperm Club. And he was definitely the Lucky Sperm Club. But then there's the 3rd kind of power, and that's what I want to talk to you about, because it's called personal power. And why is personal power so important? Personal power is the most important thing that you can do for your career and for your happiness. The most important for your career and your overall happiness, that of your family, your marriage. Personal power merely means that you do some things that make you stand out among other people. Okay, I'm going to teach you a few of those things. These are simple little things, but they make a huge difference. Okay, I'm looking around at the room right now, and I'm noticing you. Does anybody guess why I'm noticing him? I'm noticing you a little bit too, but why would I be looking at him more than anybody else? Right, and what is that way? And he's taking up space. He's taking up space. You're going to take up space.
I'm a little guy.
Well, you're going to take up your space even more. So move forward a little bit, spread out, never fold your hands, okay? Let your hands get away from you, right. Why is space so important? Is there a difference in me standing like this and talking to you, or like this and rather than like this? Does that give you a different image of me when I do this than when I do this? I always say something, I get quoted on this, I even did when I was mayor. Women, now stay with me, spread your legs. Okay, I know. But if you stand like this, okay, rather than like this, when you're selling something to someone, they're going to remember you. They're going to call you back rather than the one over here that took up no space, didn't look them in the eye, but looking in the eye is really not as important as taking up space. Now you're even more space than him. Now I can't even get past looking at you.
You put them out there.
Right, they're out there. Everybody's still kind of taking up space. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Use your body to your advantage. So keep your legs apart, have a good stance, and yeah, look them in the eye. There's also a technique. There's a communication technique that's really important, and you probably have heard of it because you probably all had a lot of sales training, but there's something called parroting. Have you ever heard of parroting? Parroting is one of the best sales techniques in the world. Say anything to me. Just say something.
How are you today?
How am I today? I just parroted her. That's more powerful than me saying okay. I threw it back to her in a different way, right? Mm-hmm. Say something else. Come on, Mr. Big Dog over here. Give me anything.
So how was being mayor of Colleyville?
How was being mayor of Colleyville? You see what I'm doing? I'm catching his attention. Okay, so you've got a buyer, right? And you're talking to the buyer. And the buyer says, you know, I'd like to have a pink bedroom. Do you go, I don't think I have anything pink? What do you say instead?
You'd like to have a pink bedroom.
There you go. And then they will start talking. If you parrot, and all of you, whether you're selling or not, if you parrot in your communication, I guarantee you, you'll develop rapport, you'll learn more about your buyer, okay, because they will automatically talk. So what you're doing is you're taking what you ask, or what the person asks you, and you're turning it around and making it a question back to them. So I said, I'd like a pink bedroom, and you said,
You'd like a pink bedroom?
I would, because I have 2 little girls and their favorite colors are pink and purple, but we could also do a blue if you had that, because they do like turquoise. Now, what have you learned? All 3 things, right?
A little bit more.
Whereas if you just said, I don't have a pink bedroom anywhere, it's over. That ends the conversation. So open up the conversation with your buyer. How many of you have heard that before? Open communication. Let me tell you the best way to do that, parrot and ask a question. When you parrot, ask it a question. If I say, you must like black, parrot me.
You think I like black?
There you go. You almost said I do. Yeah. There you go. What did you do? You caused me to talk. The more the buyer talks, the more likely you are to sell. It's not about you talking. It's about the customer talking. The more you open them up. Now let's talk about closing the sale, okay? I'm talking about personal power. I'm going to go back to 2 more things. But personal power is meaning that you are bigger than you are. It may be your personality. It may be that you're taking up space. It may be that you're looking comfortable. You know, why am I not up here with my hands like this? It's like, oh God, she's so boring. But if I'm out here looking at you and asking you questions, you're not going to be bored. You may think you will, but you won't be. But you may think you will. But, you know, so when you're talking to people, move around a little bit with them. Walk with them. I do relationship counseling now, and I do radio all over the country, and because of these guys book me all over the country, and a little bit of TV, and I'm sponsored by some sponsors, and I do a thing on developing a relationship with someone, and not selling them, but developing a relationship. And one of the best ways to develop a relationship with someone is to walk and talk with them at the same time. It's not to sit and drink, you know, believe it or not, unless you both get drunk, I guess then it'd be okay. But walking and talking together is one of the most critical things of developing a relationship with someone. So if you're with a buyer, walk around the house with them and talk. Don't just stand in one spot, because they're going to remember you a lot better. Okay, Personal power then is the ability to take up more space than you actually should. Get somebody else's space. You don't have to give it to somebody. Don't let them take your space. You take your space. Stand strong, look them in the eye. And what do you do communication-wise? Parrot. And the way to parrot is to take what they say, ask it back as a question, and then listen. If you don't listen, it doesn't do you any good to parrot, so you got to listen. Okay, that's power. I'm going to talk about branding. And I'm going to look at my notes because branding is such a big thing. How many of you have heard the term branding? All of you, because you're in the business of branding. You have signs and cards, and you guys have to brand. You will not be successful if you don't. But branding is really creating a vision for yourself, because if you don't, someone else will. Everybody gets branded. Everybody. You may say, I'm not branded. Yes, you are, because we all remember you in our mind. And so the more you can mold your own brand, you can force your own brand. That's better. I'm sorry, I've got allergies. Bouncing back from adversity, creating what you want and who you want to be. You may never get what you'll wish for, but you'll get what you work for in branding. So make sure that there's a couple of quotes I like to read about branding. One is from a very famous author that you may have never heard of because they're European, and her name is Germany Kent. And she said, start today, create a vision for yourself, your life, and your career, and do not vary from that. So branding is what you want to be. It's how you present yourself. And how many of you know a famous realtor, Fort Worth, Dallas, Mid-Cities, wherever, that really has branded themselves regardless of their firm? Do any of you know those people? Yeah, that person is bigger than the firm they work for, right? Because they have done a magnificent job. In Dallas, and I hardly know this woman, but I see her name everywhere, it's Doris Jacobs. I see her name everywhere. I don't even know what company she works for, but I know that she's a big realtor. I do know that because she has branded herself. And so that's what I would tell you. Don't be embarrassed or hesitant to put yourself out there and do a little bragging. Not the Trump brag, that's a little over the top, but a little bragging is okay. You know, present your most positive side always, always. Keep your arms out there, girls. You're getting a little, you're drawing up over there a little bit. We got to watch her. How are we doing back there? Get those arms out there. Use up your space. Everybody, you're not using your space. Here, just put an arm on the chair. You've got to keep using your space. Yeah, there you go. Take up his space. Push him over a little bit. Push your chair out. Put your legs out. It's really important. It sounds stupid, but start watching people. Seriously, watch people and see if they take up their space. See, look how much space I'm taking. I do it by nature. Take up your space. And then the last thing I want to talk about is passion. Now, how many of you have a passion? Mr. Space has one. Miss Black and White has one. Michelle has one. What's your passion, Michelle?
I work with young artists.
With artists? So are you an artist?
Yes, but I love connecting people, and I love mentoring young artists and helping them get going in their careers.
Say that again.
I love mentoring young artists and helping them get started in their careers.
Say that one more time.
I love mentoring young artists and helping them get started in their
What does she love to do?
Help young artists.
If she had said that one time, low, how many of us would have remembered? She said it 3 times, and I had her do it more and more and more, project her voice. You're not embarrassed by that, right? You love it?
I love it.
Say it one more time.
I love mentoring young artists and helping them get started in their careers.
All right, okay. And right over here, what's your passion?
Well, mine's fairly similar. I'm very passionate about helping agents build their careers.
Okay.
That's what I like.
So what's something new you're going to tell them next time?
I'm going to tell them my sales meeting tomorrow to take up more space.
Yeah, and make them do it. Make them do it right there. Don't let them sit there.
They take up quite a bit of space.
Well, let them take up some more. And notice, and while you're doing that tomorrow, because I'm going to depend on you to do it, I want you to look around the room wherever you are and find the one or 2 or 3 that take up a lot of space. And then say, if they're not new, if they've been around long enough to establish their career, how successful are they? Are they more successful than someone else? Generally, they will be. Because it looks like confidence. You may be the most underconfident person in the world. You may not want to talk. You may want to keep your arms like this and blend into the room. But if you start taking up space and you start looking at people and parroting them, it's amazing how much self-confidence you gain. It comes to you in spades. I love this. Look at these guys, got their arms back now. Yeah, taking up a lot of space. You know, when you're next to somebody too, when you go into a room and you're talking to somebody and a couple of them are standing there, okay, reach over and touch them. It never hurts. It makes you use up space, helps you to connect, and then say, how have you been? Say something.
I've been fine.
You've been fine?
Mostly when I touch
See,
a
he
woman
talked,
like
didn't he? Didn't he talk? I trapped him. He talked. He didn't want to. He was going to make me talk. So anyway, passion. Passion, it said, somebody else had a passion. You.
I did.
What
Want
was
to know what it is?
I want to
You
know
wanna
what your.
my passion
I want to
is?
know what your passion is.
Recently discovered in the last couple of years. I'm an engineer by trade. I'm a new home builder, and it's about how the puzzle goes together and how it can be put together better.
Building the home.
Yep, and as I've gotten my instructor's license, it is about teaching people how it goes together and why, and the different ways that the puzzle can be assembled.
So is your passion building the home, putting together the plans for the home, or teaching other people?
A little of both, because the putting together for you as a custom builder, there's a lot of passion goes in that, because
Yeah.
I'm going to steer you on where you're going to spend your money for the most part. I mean, I'm happy to build you anything you want. A lot of people say, I want big crown molding. Okay. so
Look
you
at
like
him
crown
using up
molding.
his space.
You
Look
like
at
crown
this.
molding. What do you like best about crown molding? What's two families that you guys run with as couples? What kind of crown molding they got in their entryway?
Are you asking?
Nobody can ever tell me. And
I
they
don't
go
know.
to their house all the time. I said, so why are we going to spend a lot of money on crown molding? Why don't we put it in something that we use every day?
There you go. And you're
Spend your
asking me,
money
you're going to
correctly.
make me
Yes.
talk, and then you're going to understand what motivates
So
me.
do you like energy efficiency?
I love it.
What is it you like about it?
I save money.
And how do you save money?
There we go. See, he's got me going. I'm going to tell him everything he knows. Okay? I mean, I know. So that's a passion. But the passion, again, I want to make sure I understand. Passion is usually something that's, it adds an extra meaning to your life. It's something you would do even if you didn't get paid. Would you do that even if you didn't get paid?
I'm a home builder. I don't get paid.
That's
I
awesome.
lose money every house. Keep
That's
on
awesome.
building until it's all gone.
That's awesome. And you know, something interesting about home builders, I saw this when I was mayor in Colleyville. Home builders don't ever retire. They're always going to retire.
Neither do realtors.
I guess they don't. It's
Keel over one.
it's amazing to me. They must love what they do because they do not retire.
Why would you ever retire?
If you love it, you wouldn't.
So my dad was an airline pilot.
Uh-huh.
They were forced to retire at 60.
Uh-huh.
I saw a dozen of his friends all die of heart attacks within the first year.
There you go.
of retirement.
There
That's
you
why
go.
You don't retire.
There you go. And
Keep
you
busy, keep going, keep moving forward.
and you do know that thwarts Alzheimer's. I guess you've all heard that. To keep your brain busy, keep your body busy, and be social. Be social. That's really important for
Work up till
Alzheimer's.
noon the day of your funeral.
There you go. So we talked about power. What did we learn about power? One thing.
Take up your space.
Take up space. Right. Communication of power. Parrot. Parrot. Ask a question. Okay. We've talked about branding. What's one way you like to brand yourself? Explain yourself to me. Tell me what you do. How do you brand it?
Yeah, I don't.
That's it. Get some space going on.
Yeah. What do I do?
Yeah. If I said, who are you, what would you say?
My name is Valerie. I'm a ballroom dancer.
You're a ballroom dancer.
Real estate agent.
Okay.
Help people buy and sell homes.
There we are. See, she threw in a little extra, didn't she? That's really important in branding. Describe yourself as you see yourself. Get in your mind how you see yourself. He's full of passion. He's a home builder. He wants to help people. You want to help emerging artists. You're a ballroom dancer. So you should have your elevator speech in your head. And that is, how do you see yourself? See, when I tell somebody, I don't ever say I'm a mayor. I just don't ever say that. Because to me, I'm not. It's been several years ago. So now I say I'm a relationship coach. you know, which is totally different than being a mayor, which is totally different than working for Procter & Gamble. But that's how I am. So remake yourself into your passion, whatever that is. But that's your branding. So you have to brand yourself. You have to tell people what you are. And then the last thing, of course, is passion, and we talked about that. So that's my 3 things. If you can leave today with only 1 or 2 of those things, and if you will practice them. If you're going to practice those, will you raise your hand? Higher. I want to see some space. Yes, yes, there we go. That makes me a lot better than this. Who did this? You did this. Get that hand up there. So remember, write it down. Take up space, all right? Look people in the eye. We all know that. We've been taught that since we're little kids. But it's not so hard to look them in the eye if you're asking them a question, right? You don't want to just stand and look somebody in the eye like a dummy. You want to ask them something. So I've written 3 books since I left Colleyville and moved to Dallas. In 2008, I moved to Dallas, and I was no longer mayor, and I was in business, and I was traveling a lot. And so I, excuse me, traveled all over the world. I was CEO of an international real estate company, a big fund, and I had about 8,000 investors. And in 2000, gosh, that was 2008. Is that right? No, 2004, I'm sorry, 2004. And in 2008, I sold out my quarter of the fund, which was over $1 billion fund, and retired. Oh my gosh, I was so bored. And my husband left me in the meantime and took up with an internet affair with his old girlfriend in college. Okay, so I'm single, I'm in my 50s, I'm living in Dallas, I don't know 14 people. I've got a career that I just retired from. I'm in trouble, right? I know nobody. I'm taking up space though, okay? So I started dating. How many of you have dated later in life, over 40? Well, over 30? Hands way up there. Look at that. What, didn't it suck?
I'm 60 and I'm just now starting to date. I've been single since '92.
Doesn't
Raised
it?
4 kids
Here,
by myself,
you
and
need
it
this.
is horrible. It is horrible.
Oh my God, I'm writing a book right now. I need to talk to you, Mr. Space. I'm writing a book. I have a trilogy. This is an extra little one. I have a trilogy that came out. Well, I started writing, okay, about how awful it was, and I wrote a humor book. This is a humor book, and it's a humor book called Cinderella Has Cellulite. So, we all want to be Cinderella, right, girls? But we have some baggage, and I term that baggage as cellulite, because we can't get rid of our baggage, right? We got it with us the rest of our life. So I wrote a little book of short stories, humor, about dating when you're older. Dating when you're older, according to my Hollywood agent, because this is now into a TV series, my Hollywood agent claims 40 is older. Okay, I think 60's older, but he thinks 40's older. And in Hollywood, actually 25's older. But anyway, I turned this in, I remarried, and this book has to do with dating and remarriage. And as, again, it's a satire, it's a humor book. So I'm remaking myself, right? I didn't know I was remaking myself. I was just using space and talking about things and writing them down. A bunch of girlfriends gave me their stories. All the stories in this book are true. And anyway, the book got published. I won't go into that, we don't have time, but it was an accident that it got published. I happened to run into a woman that was a religious biographer, and I said, I've got a book about sex and remarriage. And she's like, I can't do it. And I said, yes, you can. So I talked her into it. She edited it and produced the book. The book went out in 2014 and became a bestseller on Amazon and hit in the top 2%. It's still, from time to time, will hit in the top 2%. Or 1% sometimes on Amazon. So it became a bestseller. It's done in 6 languages. It's had a movie written about it and a TV series, which is now being shopped out in Hollywood. That's this book. That was my first book. Cinderella Has Cellulite. The way I named it is I was going to call, I had remarried by then. I have 2 stepdaughters that kind of hated my guts. And so I decided that I would call my book Shut Up and Wear Beige, right? That's what the new wife's supposed to do. Well, when I was getting that name copyrighted, they found, the copyright lawyer found that some divorced women in Anchorage, Alaska had coined that name for their club, Shut Up and Wear Beige. So we didn't have a name. The book was written, Everything was done except for the cover. And I'm talking to my editor, who's never done a book like this before, and I said sex, but there's nothing graphic in it. In fact, it's sold in the Christian bookstores, so there. But anyway, I said, oh, I don't know. It's kind of like Cinderella. You know, I want to be Cinderella, but I got cellulite. I can't get rid of it. She's like, that's it. So people love the title because it's kind of fun, and anyway, it became a bestseller, and so it's still sold. When it got out to Hollywood, they said, we don't have enough. They wanted to write 20 shows. 20 shows is the magic on TV, okay? If something goes two seasons, one season is really kind of, that's about 12 shows, 30-minute shows, but if it goes to 20 and it's written and it goes 2 seasons, then it's considered successful. And then the writer gets paid, which is, I consider successful. And so they said, we need to write 20 stories, 20 shows of 30 minutes. So they wanted me to follow up. And I had gone on a cruise, and I was watching an older lady hit on a younger guy and in the library of the cruise ship. And I just thought that was so funny. So I wrote a follow-up, Sex and the Siren, Tales of a Later Dater. And this is about an even older person dating, and it's a humor book. So these two have kind of gone together. They don't sell together on Amazon, but they're right next to each other. And now I'm writing the follow-up, which I need to talk to you about, which is called Prince Charming Has a Migraine, and that's from the man's point of view of dating when he's older. And some of these stories crack me up. I've written 8 or 9 of the segments of it. So I need to find out. One guy told me, oh, Donna, it's real simple when you're a guy. Okay, I said, well, how's that? He said, you only want 3 things. I said, well, what is it? He goes, you're either hungry, horny, or sleepy. One or the other. He goes, there's nothing else to it. So anyway, that's going to be in the book. But it's called Prince Charming Has a Migraine. And I'm not sure when it's coming out because I get caught up in doing other things. I kept being asked to do my memoir, and so I did write my memoir, and I know you guys have read it. It's about growing up in Henrietta, Texas. It sounds boring, but believe me, it is not boring because I say it's growing up in the innocent 1960s and 70s that weren't so innocent. So I talk about all kinds of things that happened in the 60s and 70s in small-town Texas. It has been compared and reviewed to The Last Picture Show from a female's perspective. It's been doing really well on Amazon. These are in Barnes & Noble, they're in the bookstores. This one has not gone to the bookstores yet because I haven't put it in the bookstores yet. The bookstores rip you off so bad that if I sell it on Amazon, I do better. So anyway, that's the 3 books. I sold, it's a biography for another person, and right now I'm writing a murder mystery, which I'm really into. And it is about a serial killer that's true, and his name, let me see if any of you know him. His name is Henry Lee Lucas. How many of you remember him? He was a serial killer, there we go. He was a serial killer from the late 1970s, and he got caught in Montague County, Texas, and he had cut up a lady, and the reason I'm writing about him is that lady that he cut up and got caught on was my mother's seamstress, and her name was Mrs. Kate Rich. And so I'm writing it's a fiction book and based on reality, and I'm writing about a female serial killer who hooks up with Henry Lee. That's all in my mind, and then Henry Lee's not. So anyway, it's already being asked for out in.
A guy does not want to date a woman who's doing that.
Well, I'm married now, so yeah, that would be a bad thing. I'm going to put that in my book. I'm going to put that in my book. So, how many of you have ever written a book? How many of you want to write a book? You've written one? You've written one? You want one? Sit down and do it. Call me if you want to know how. No, it's not. You just make notes. Make notes and call me, and I know I was always too busy too, but if it becomes a passion, then you'll have to do it. If it becomes a passion. So call me if I can help you in any way. Power, branding. 3rd thing was passion. How do books work? How do TV work? Oh, by the way, how you get paid on TV. If you're a TV writer, you might find that interesting. If you get picked up for the 2nd season, okay, then the writer gets, and if it's for the one of the top ones, ABC, NBC, CBS, the Big 4, Fox, if you're on that, you get $125,000 per show. Nice coin, right? If you're not picked up on that and you go down to the 2nd tier, Amazon, Netflix, blah, 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 you get $25,000 a show if you own 100% of rights to the book. If you're streamed, If you're in the third level, you get $12,500. I'll take any of it. I just wish somebody'd buy it. So anyway, thank you so much for having me, Michelle. It was great fun. Spread your arms out, hug people, and thanks for having me. Sell a lot. Bye. Oh, I do have these for sale. If you want to buy them, and you certainly don't have to. This one is 15. This one's 10. This one's 10. This is the old cover. I have a few old covers left. These were selling for $400. $400? How much were they on Amazon? $600?
Up there.
Yeah, because these are not made anymore. This is in its third printing. These were the first printing, and I did bring about 10 of them. If you buy them, don't give them away. keep those. But anyway, and if you want to buy all three, it's $30. So that's it, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you so much. Thank you. You have a